The DJI Air 3 has the same main lens and sensor as the Mini 3 Pro, so we might think that the quality of the footage should be the same or very similar. In this video we will see all the differences between the two models regarding video quality and functionalities. The wide-angle lens of the Air 3 has the same specs as the one of the Mini 3 Pro, with a 1/1.3 inch sensor, a field of view of 24mm, and a fixed aperture of f1.7. The video resolution is 4K and the maximum bitrate 150 Mbps. Many users were hoping for a bigger sensor and a resolution of over 5K, like the Air 2S, but DJI has chosen to leave these features for the flagship model, the Mavic 3. In exchange, the Air 3 has been supplied with a host of very powerful features, some of them previously exclusive to the top version, like the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance system and the very useful waypoint mode. The new features of the Air 3 include a much improved signal transmission, the only real weak point of the Mini 3 Pro, a much longer battery life announced at 46 minutes versus 34 for the Mini 3 Pro, higher speed and wind resistance, two 10-bit color modes, D-Log and XLG, besides the 8-bit normal, and a frame rate of 100 FPS at 4K for super slow motion. These functionalities are extremely useful and make shooting footage an enjoyable and stress-free experience. I will analyze them on other videos, as in this one I will focus on video quality. By far the most important new feature is the dual lens system, which adds to the wide-height lens a moderate telephoto one with a field of view equivalent to 70mm and a fixed aperture of 2.8. This second lens is a true game changer, as it adds plenty of extra creative possibilities for parallax effect and a different representation of the proportions between the element in the foreground and the one in the background. Apart from the more affordable price, the Mini 3 Pro has the advantage of a weight below the important threshold of 250 grams for more relaxed regulation. It has also the ability to rotate the camera to shoot vertical footage, maintaining the 4K video resolution, while the Air 3 can achieve vertical video by cropping to a resolution of 2.7K. So let's start with the jewel of the crown, the telephoto lens. When I started using drones about 10 years ago, the one thing that I really missed compared to ground-based DSLR cameras was the ability to switch lenses of different focal lengths. This option was introduced in DJI drones with the Mavic 3, and is now also added to the Air 3. I simply love it. With the first version of the Mavic 3, the telephoto lens had many limitations in terms of functionalities, and the quality of the footage was much lower compared to the wide-angle lens. In the Air 3, the footage shot with the 70mm lens is excellent and very similar to the other lens, which makes it easy to integrate footage on the same projects. This lens is compatible with practically all the functionalities of the Air 3, including the intelligent flight modes. The only feature not compatible that I've found so far is panorama photography. 70mm is the ideal focal length to pair with the wide-angle one. I like the compression of the element on different planes and the parallax effect when rotating around the target. It's also very useful for getting close to subjects that we could not otherwise reach, to avoid disturbing wildlife, or when tracking subjects from a point of view farther away. The telephoto lens is compatible with the three color modes of the Air 3. In normal mode it needs a touch of extra contrast and saturation to shine. For many users, the presence of this second lens could be enough to justify the price difference. Let's now compare the 8-bit normal video mode, the one meant to be used with little editing, or none at all. In Air 3 normal mode is a thing of beauty. The colors are extremely rich and very organic, the detail is outstanding, and there is a good amount of info in the shadows. It doesn't need any editing to shine. Normal mode in the Mini 3 Pro benefits from some extra contrast and saturation. I found it quite good, although a little weak in terms of detail, but it is seriously outclassed by the Air 3. I don't mean at all to bash the Mini 3 Pro, which has the best video rendition of DJI lightweight models, but in normal mode the difference in detail is striking. The footage of the Mini 3 looks a bit mushy compared to the Air 3. The Air 3 has two 10-bit color modes, D-Log M and HLG, while the Mini 3 Pro has the 10-bit Cine-like. An 8-bit mode can display about 16 million colors versus over 1 billion for a 10-bit one. So these modes have more color accuracy, avoiding banding and other artifacts in uniform areas like the sky or the sea. The 10-bit mode HLG, Hybrid Log Gamma, has vivid colors and good detail in the shadows and the highlight. It is meant to perform well in high dynamic range situations without needing heavy post-processing. It can be thought of as something between normal and D-Log M. In Air 3 this mode has some issues, at least in my unit. It has a very strong tendency to overexpose and burn a highlight when using the usual exposure settings. The files are also extremely demanding in terms of computer resources. In my first couple of days, I ruined all the footage taken in this mode, using the usual exposure techniques, with highlights burnt beyond belief. To get good results, I had to expose between 1.5 and 2 stops below normal value, with the image on the screen obviously extremely dark. There could be something wrong with my unit, so please let me know in the comment if you have experienced the same issue. I hope DJI will soon improve this mode, as when it is properly exposed, it is a pleasant alternative to D-Log. The other 10-bit mode of the Air 3 is D-Log M. It is a flat profile that needs a good dose of post-processing and the use of LUTs. It is therefore for users with a good experience of color grading. It is a bit like using raw files for photography, although post-processing video is more complex than photos. It is used to adapt footage to different color schemes to fit specific projects. D-Log M is a softer version of D-Log. It's not as flat and it is easier to edit, but not as solid in high dynamic range situation. With Air 3 it is easy to visualize the image on the screen, while with other models like the Mavic 3 the image is so flat that a color display as assist option has been added to enhance the visibility of the display by adjusting the contrast and saturation. Let's compare the D-Log M on the Air 3 to the 10-bit mode of the Mini 3 Pro, this in alike. D-Log M is quite easy to color grade using a correct LUT. In easy light condition the result is very pleasing with rich colors and good detail, considering the small size of the sensor. In high dynamic range situation it does a decent job, but it cannot maintain a lot of detail in the shadows while fully preserving the highlights. It is a good performance considering the price point, but for professional users it cannot remotely compete with the Mavic 3, which is in another league, as it should be given the price. With the Mini 3 Pro I was never impressed by the Disney-like mode and don't use it much. I think it is great to have a 10-bit profile in an ultralight affordable drone, but the quality of this mode is not something to write home about. In easy light the colors are decent, but the detail is a bit weak, and as soon as the camera is in the direction of the sun, things get disappointing. There is not much going on the shadows. The structure of the sky is poor, and the footage overall is a bit washed out. An area where the Mini 3 Pro really shines, forgiving the pun, is low light situations, due partly to the very wide aperture of f1.7. Even at the very low ISO values, the shadows still show a good amount of detail without any noise. The footage was taken half an hour after sunset, with the very last twilight and artificial light. The performance of the Air 3 in normal mode is excellent. With similar information in the shadows, but the colors of the bigger model are richer, and as usual, there is much more detail. There is also a night mode with auto exposure. In the first iteration of this mode in the Mavic 3 I found it disappointing, with a fake plasticky look. In the Air 3 the night mode has improved, but I still largely prefer to use manual exposure for better shadows and more detail. This way I can control the individual exposure values, which is crucial. Later on, in darker conditions, I raised the ISO value to a whopping 3200. The result is still acceptable, even though there is a loss of detail in the shadows. Click on this link to watch my comparison of these two models for photography. And don't forget to hit the like button if you find this video interesting. Thank you.